folks, welcome back to the vlog. It is me, the Tank Commander, and we are moving on with the next vlog today, because guess what? It is 8 days until our cruise next week. That's right, 8 days. And, well, as I said by the instructions last night, I was hoping people would vote, but it looks like RJ Nagel 2000 is still our champion with 2 votes for the next tank. So, without further ado, congratulations to RJ Nagel 2000, and we are going to be starting off with their vote. And here it is. Oh yeah, hey Mr. 06 Walst, are you watching? Get a load of this. It's the tank you wish to be brought back originally. It's the M24 Chaffee, ladies and gentlemen. Now this tank is an American light tank introduced in 1944. Now you may be looking at this thing, and you may be thinking, that's a light tank? It looks rather large for a light tank. Well, let me show you the comparison, because I have my Stuart with me. You look at the comparison between the two. Yeah. It's considerably larger. Now you're probably wondering, why did they decide to do this tank? Well, you know what? Let's go down to the basics first. So the M24 Chaffee was designed in order to create a tank that was a light tank that could hold the same gun as the M4 Sherman, which in this case, this is the latest version of the M375mm. This is the M6 in an M64 mount. Now, the thing was that, so this tank weighed 20.25 tons. Now, in metric tons, that's 18 tons. But yeah, this tank weighed only 4 tons more than the Stuart. You heard that correctly. It weighed 4 tons more than the Stuart. Now, you're probably wondering, why is that? Well, it's because looking at the armor models from Armor Inspector for World of Tanks, this thing's armor was basically worse than the Stuart's. Now, the frontal hull was 25mm thick, which was actually better than the M5 Stuart. However, its turret armor was still worse because, believe it or not, the mantlet of this thing is 38mm thick. The mantlet of the Stuart is 50mm thick. And sadly, at some combat ranges, this thing's upper plate could be penetrated by the 37mm of the Stuart. That's bad. That's very bad. Onto with its engine, it was powered by a pair of Cadillac 44 T24 V8 petrol engines, each producing 110 horsepower, and that gave it a top speed of 34 miles per hour, or 55 kilometers an hour. And that was considered pretty good for a tank its size, but you have to remember, it being a light tank, this is a rather large target to hit. So basically, now you think about this. The Stuart, okay? Now yes, it has a puny 37mm gun, but this, you gotta remember, being a reconnaissance tank, that's really all it ever needed, because the main target of it was to go against infantry and not enemy armor. That's where the Chaffee came in, but the problem was it still had the Sherman's subpar gun. Now, I don't like being critical of the Sherman, because my great-uncle was a Sherman tank commander in the Pacific Theater during the Second World War. But in Europe, it's just the Sherman's gun, the further the war went on, it just became subpar. You have to remember, this gun was originally designed to basically overwhelm the armor of, like, lighter tanks. When the Panzer III came in, it was about equal with the Panzer III's 50mm L60. When the Panzer IV came in with the long 75, it was immediately outclassed. The only thing that saved the Sherman was the fact that the early Panzer IVs still had 50mm of frontal armor. But then that's when we started getting variants like the Panzer IV, Ausführung Ich, and the Ausführung J, the late models, which had the long 75mm L48 and had the side skirts, or Panzerschürzen. And of course, with the bolted-on armor on the front, that proved to be 80mm thick. And well, that's what got this tank down, because being introduced in 1944, it was already in my opinion, it was already obsolete. So, in my opinion, I'd have to say this was probably one of the most pathetic World War II tanks. And I'm sorry, 06 Waltz, I have no objection to this tank in the game. I find it was pretty fun when I played it in the mobile version, World of Tanks Blitz, but in real life, this tank sucked. And the main reason is because I don't officially know a lot of the track record of the tank during the Second World War. I mainly know it by what I've seen from the Korean conflict. And why is that? Well, let's just say that the first tanks that came to Korea from Japan were M24 Chafees. What did that have to face? It had to face this. That's right, the T-34-85. You thought that this tank was outclassed by the Panzer IV in 1944? Try the T-34-85 in 1950 that had 45mm of sloped frontal armor that gave it an equivalent armor of 90mm and was armed with an 85mm D5T gun. That's pretty pathetic. As I heard from one Chaffee tank crew, they basically fired at the T-34 and it was basically like hitting an elephant with a BB gun. They said the shells basically bounced off like they were tennis balls. And then when the T-34-85 fired, it fired one shot, but it didn't penetrate. Know why? Because it got lucky. Because it hit that mantlet right there. As they said, if it didn't, as the veteran said, if it didn't hit the gun shield on the 75mm, it would have penetrated and we would have all been killed. Now, oh yes, I forgot about the secondary armaments. So we already know that the main armament is a 75mm M6. The secondary armaments, the mount is basically broken off right now, but would have been here would have been a Browning M2HB 50 cal machine gun. And in the ball mount on the hull and next to the mantlet, as you can see there, those were two Browning M1919A4 medium machine guns, 7.62mm. Now, you may find this crazy, but what I actually find astonishing about this tank is the fact that it's still used today. There are places like, I believe, Paraguay and Uruguay who still use this thing as both parade tanks and training tanks. They still have them, along with M5 Stuarts and M4 Shermans still in operation. Now, granted, the Shermans are actually upgraded French models that have the French FL-10 on it. Now, again, people get a little confused between the FL-10 and the SA-50. Now, that I'm not going to get into right now. But let's focus on this. Basically, from the Second World standpoint, by the time this thing was introduced, it was completely obsolete. And you think about it, had this thing been introduced, say, 1941, 1942, this thing would have had a fair chance against the Panzers. In fact, I'd probably say that if it was introduced then, it would have been on the same par as the Crusader Mark III, which had the 6-pounder of 57mm. Or possibly the Cromwell, which came out in 1943. However, the issue is just this tank was just not put out at the right time. Even though it's still in service today, as they say, albeit modern form, this tank just proved completely obsolete by the time it was introduced. Because, as it said, the M6 gun was supposed to be an airborne version of the Sherman's M3 gun to be mounted on a B-25 Mitchell, medium bomber. Anybody who's seen the videos from War Thunder, the PBJ Mitchell, that's the M6 gun. That's what this gun was supposed to be. But sadly, I just find it kind of pathetic. In my opinion, I think we could have done a lot better. In fact, thinking about things from World of Tanks, I think we could have actually gone with like the T-25 program. Even though that was still technically, well actually no, the T-21, which basically had it was like a baby Pershing, as it said. It had a 76mm gun, and it had a better hull on it. Basically just to say, that's just how bad I think the Chaffee was. Okay, it was a fairly good idea, but it was just too late. That's why it just doesn't sit well with a historical standpoint. In my opinion, yes, it was a good tank, but it was proved obsolete by the time it came into service in 1944. But that's basically it for now. So, that ends the vlog for today, and we'll be catching you guys tomorrow at the 1 week mark. 7 days. So, ladies and gentlemen, I need you all to get out there and start sharing and voting, because RJ Nagel is still the champion of this. And as we look, as you should know, for the next 7 days, we have 8 tanks left. So that, as you know, one of the picks is 2 of them at once. So to clarify, there's only 7 picks left, people. You all need to start voting, because if you want to see these tanks, you guys need to show that you're interested in it. Because guess what? I'm doing this for you guys. You guys love these vlogs so much. All you guys need to do is just come and show your support. I know many of you probably don't have the attention span to listen to me lecture and all that. But let me tell you, this stuff is stuff that is not what normal history professors and teachers would teach you guys. That's why I'm sacrificing my time here to show you guys this stuff, because this is stuff that many people don't read in a history book. And of course, I don't like to, that may have sounded like me bragging or something, but let me just tell you guys, if you guys are liking this, all you guys need to do is just show your support for the channel. Because I'm not going to be getting any bigger without your guys' help. I'm counting on you guys to do this. So I hope that you guys will get out there and share these videos. I'm hoping to get more people to show their support by subscribing to me when I'm on my cruise. So if you guys can help me with that, I'm grateful to you all for helping me. So, I hope to see you all tomorrow with more votes. Good luck.